What's up, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and this is my Raw reactions for the week of October the 12th, 2015. I did sit in with Grim for his Raw roast reactions, so if you want to see my early thoughts on this episode of Raw, go watch that video. I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much here, so it's going to be a little bit quicker than my usual Raw reactions, because obviously, if you already watched that video, not going to be a whole lot new here in my thoughts on Raw this week, but let us start out with the worst part. First of all, Raw was in Chicago, and usually Chicago is one of your hottest crowds of the year, regardless of when you go to Raw. That is a good wrestling city, and they just kind of failed it all night on this Raw with just things that were not particularly interesting or good, and the chief one of those was Corporate Kane on a conference call with the Authority, who were late to the building and didn't actually get there all night. And they kept going back to Kane on this conference call all night, and it was the worst, like, who's on first type jokes all night, and it was like, why would you, who in the writing room thought that that was a good idea to do all night long? Obviously, you gotta fill 3 hours, but man, it was just horrible. So, the actual open had Dean Ambrose in the ring saying how, hey, we shouldn't have Raw open with a 20-minute promo, we should have, you know, matches. And then out comes Randy Orton to do his droning, over-explaining Randy Orton, I am Randy Orton type. I'm like, no, you're saying one thing and doing the opposite of what you're saying. That fucking sucks. But thankfully, as always these days, Raw is being salvaged by the New Day, who comes out and runs down Ambrose and Orton, and that was great. That led to a tag team match playa, of which the New Day won because of the damn numbers game. But nice to see Kofi finally getting his vengeance years later on Randy Orton on that whole stupid thing. So that was great. So Kofi got the pinfall on Randy Orton, as they should, because essentially you're running 3 versus 2, even though it was a tag team match playa. Holla holla. That runs us into this match, Nikki Bella versus Naomi, and obviously the crowd, being a wrestling crowd, wanted Sasha, because of course they would. And the only Sasha we got was apparently Brie Bella took it upon herself to grab a microphone and stand on the announce table and mock the crowd for chanting, we want Sasha. And what that did was brought over Sasha to scooped legs of Brie Bella, of which she should have back bumped on the table. Instead, being as uncoordinated as she is, Brie Bella back bumps from the table onto the floor. I was like, it looked so awkward. I wouldn't be surprised if she got hurt there some way, but man, it just looked real rough. But because of all those distractions, Nikki wins, etc., etc., and they're trying to, I guess, kind of say, oh, well, Team Bad might split up because the crowd only wants to see Sasha, and granted, you know, when you're looking at, you know, your other teammates are Naomi, who's alright, and Tamina, who's terrible, obviously, they want Sasha. Anyway, moving along. That was a 3 count. Okay, sure. Moving along, we had the U.S. Open Challenge, and obviously last week we did not get Dolph Ziggler because he was incapacitated by the New Day. So instead, this week we actually get our John Cena versus Dolph Ziggler match for the U.S. title. And of course Cena wins because it's Cena. Although supposedly he's going to be taking some time off soon, so whether or not he drops that belt at Hell in the Cell remains to be seen. Not even sure who he's going to fight at Hell in the Cell. I'm not sure that they've actually announced that yet. Personally, I would hope that he would, you know, have another great match with Cesaro and give Cesaro the U.S. belt for a little bit. I think that could do wonders for that, and wonders for keeping Cesaro on TV every week, because one thing I failed to mention last week is that whole show, there was no Cesaro. That's fucked up. He's one of your best guys. Put him on TV. He does the damn thing. So, after Cena wins, and of course he wins, they had the Dudleys versus Ascension in a squash match, because at this point, what else are you going to do with the Ascension? Kind of whatever. You're continuing to, you know, eventually, you know, put the belt on the tag belts on the Dudleys for the 10th time. That's going to happen at some point, because why else would you bring them back? So, that goes into this match. Sheamus and King Barrett, versus Neville and Cesaro. And as much as I hate to say they're going to be tossing in Neville as a replacement for the injured and possibly never returning Tyson Kidd, I think that Cesaro and a smaller dude, a small fast dude, work well as a tag team. I think if you're not going to give Cesaro a significant singles push, which you should, then this is another way to get him on TV, and I think they worked alright as a team. They had some cool shit, but you're not going to really replace the team you had with Cesaro and Kidd. That was something special. So, in any case, the main complaint here was, what the fuck are you doing with Sheamus? He's Money in the Bank, and he is literally having, like, when was the last time that he even teased cashing in? How long has it been? He's Money in the Bank. He should be somewhat of a, like, even if I don't give a shit about Sheamus, he should be somewhat of a focus on your show, not relegated to tag team matches, holla holla, that don't actually mean anything, are just kind of in the middle of your show for no fucking reason at all. Which is to say, you're putting Sheamus with Wade Barrett, the number one go-nowhere guy that is doing nothing. It's Wade Barrett. What are you doing? Anyway, the heels win, whatever. One of the absolute, even with the Kane stuff, as much as I hated the Kane stuff, your absolute worst in-ring segment on this show was someone, and I'm going to say Vince, in their infinite wisdom, decided to give Roman Reigns a microphone to have him recap his entire 5-month feud with the Wyatt family. What on earth are you thinking of anywhere to do that? You don't do that in Chicago. The crowd was shitting all over him. He attempted to acknowledge the what chants and the boring chants. And look, Roman Reigns, they were doing alright in rehabilitating his image after the whole thing with the Rumble and Mania. Having him with Ambrose not talking was doing wonders. Have him doing cool shit when they had that Bray Wyatt and Reigns after Raw brawl, and they were doing awesome shit. That works. Having Reigns not talk and be a badass works. Having Reigns cutting a 5-minute plus promo in front of a Chicago crowd does not work, and supposedly Vince is now micromanaging Raw because the ratings are on a fucking free fall and like no one gives a shit. So anyway, that went into a Roman Reigns Braun Strowman match, and as I said in that Grim video, it was the Green leading the Green. That match was boring. That match had some fucking significant botched and retried spots in it, and it ended with a countout. Now, I know you want to keep your big strong guy strong. Here's a hint. You want to keep your big strong guy strong, have him win the goddamn match. Is that so hard to comprehend? Having a countout helps nobody. It was dumb. Speaking of dumb, after this segment, we moved on to the Rusev and Summer Rae promo segment, and we reveal that Rusev in real life proposed to Lana and she said yes, and they're getting married. I understand that they're trying to blur the lines between reality and the product, but we know it's not real, it's a soap opera. So there was no need to flush like 4 to 5 months of storylines down the toilet because you want to acknowledge what got reported on TMZ, even though supposedly WWE leaks things to TMZ. It's like they basically nuked months of storyline. There's not going to be a payoff. There's not going to be a mixed tag match with Lana and Ziggler versus Summer Rae and Rusev. There's going to be nothing. It's going to go back to having Lana, who's not even on TV, and Rusev. Like, what's the fucking payoff for all this stuff that you spent all this time building to go, oh, well, we got mainstream attention, which Vince fucking loves, for this stuff, and now it's frustrating. It's like, don't even acknowledge it. Don't even put it on TV. It's dumb. And that led into Rusev versus Ryback, and then Rusev loses, and whatever. Just the whole thing, like, not that I was a fan of the angle in the first place. I think Rusev was great in making it work. He was spinning shit into gold every goddamn week. But this just is having to go this direction with it and effectively just squash everything that you've built for who knows how long is the worst fucking thing in the world. So, after that was Kevin Owens continuing to feud with the Lucha Dragons and continuing to be one of the best parts of the show every week as your IC champion and just doing the Lucha stuff and just mocking them and making it work. Like, on paper, Owens vs. Kalisto should not work, and even though this was short, I still enjoyed it, and you know it was a good time. So that moves into Charlotte and Becky versus Brie and Alicia Fox in your second Divas match of the night. I should mention before that Nikki. That was two. Before that Nikki and Naomi match, they had a video package for Sasha and Bayley. Like, why would you say, oh, here's our awesome thing, now look at what we're actually putting on Raw, and it's not nearly as good. Like, don't even point that out, it's a bad idea. Anyway, the tag match ended with Brie. There was a bunch of interference here, because Paige was on commentary, whatever. Bunch of interference, Natalia Paige, all this other stuff going on, and Brie pins the Divas champion with her shitty-ass Brie mode missile drop kick, and like, for all your talk of your Divas Revolution, this is not helping your cause at all. For everything that people had to do, oh, the hot tag, for everything that people had to do on NXT to make things work, and this is what you're doing on Raw, really? I'm not even gonna get into it. So, main event, lumberjack match, which it feels like Rollins has a lot of those. Lumberjack match on Raw, Kane versus Rollins. Kane wins because lumberjack interference, and the reason that this was the focal point of this show is because you know next week is the go-home show, and the main event of Hell in a Cell is Taker and Brock. So once again, your world title is not the most important part of your show, and that's kind of bullshit. So you know with Kane going over here, he's not going to go over at Hell in a Cell, nor should he as a literal grandfather in the main event scene of your flagship show in 2015. Cesaro is awesome. Cesaro is the fucking best. Anyway, this tag match could go on for a while, and I don't have much else to complain about. I thought last week's Raw was way better than this week. You would think they would at least bring their A game in Chicago, and they did not. This was definitely not their A game, and they wonder why their ratings are in the fucking toilet. Anyway, that was Raw for October the 12th, 2015. Most of those same thoughts are in that Grimm's Toy Show video, so go watch that if you haven't. I thought we did a pretty good job roasting it, but that was kind of what I thought about Raw. And it was kind of not that good. So, I'm a tax slug. This kind of went on a bit longer than I had anticipated. But until then, until next time, 2 more weeks. And this type of video is going to be with 2K16 and not 15. So perhaps that'll be a little bit better. Who knows? And maybe it'll be worse. I don't know. But until then, until next time, I'll see you next time. Right here on this channel. And I'm out. Come on. And the heels win. I'm out.